Chair, good morning. Morning, everyone on the platform. Chair, before the meeting starts, I just need to ask you to indulge me for 30 seconds. I want to propose the way we should approach these meetings, because I think we can do more with the limited time that we have. Yeah, I just didn't want to interrupt you when you're already running the meeting, so I thought I should do this preemptive strike before you start talking. Thank you, Chair.
Good morning, Honorable Mani. Let's wait for the meeting to start so that anything you propose is on record.
Sure.
Very good morning, honorable members.
Recording in progress.
Everyone who is in a call. Greetings to the Deputy Minister of Mineral and Petroleum Resources. I see the DDG Nzimande is also on call. Greetings to the CEO of Minerals Council, Ntate Mtenjane, and everyone on call. Honorable members, today we are meeting to receive a presentation from the Minerals Council. If you can help me with the agenda, the Minerals Council, and we are going to consider and adopt a report on the petition that was brought by Mr. Craythorn. We are going to first receive a briefing and then get clarity-seeking questions and discussions, and then move to the report. It shouldn't take long, today's meeting. There's just one issue I want to bring to your attention, that we received a letter from the Chair of Chairs, which was cautioning us to indicate if the committee meetings will clash with some of the budget votes, so that it doesn't affect attendance in those budget votes. If there is a clash, we need to make an application afresh, even if it was previously granted. We have since found that next week's meeting is clashing with a budget vote, and we're proposing that we cancel the meeting. We cancel the meeting next week, attend to budget votes, and then only have the meeting of the 22nd of July, which will deal with the second petition that was brought to us through the Office of the Speaker before the end of the term. Are we fine with that proposal before we proceed, honorable members?
It's okay, Chair. Thank you.
Honorable Mani accepts the proposal. Any seconder?
Chair, my hand is up.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm also comfortable with the approach that you have outlined. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, before I allow what Honorable Mani wanted to propose, can I welcome DG? Can I give 2 minutes to the Deputy Minister to greet the meeting, and then we'll take it from there. Deputy Minister?
No, thank you very much, Chairperson of the meeting. Greetings to all members connected. Greetings to the CEO of Minerals Councils of South Africa, Mr. Mzila, our DDG, who's also connected here. Good morning. Thank you very much, Chairperson, for this opportunity. I think one must also indicate that as we are expecting a report from Minerals Council, one must indicate that mining remains as one of our South Africans' key economic sectors driver. And knowing very well that we've got a number of challenges when it comes to mining, but also the challenge of unemployment. We always believe that a mining sector is the only sector that can assist us in terms of economy, in terms of the poverty that we are currently facing as the country, but most importantly, the issue of unemployment that we are facing. So listening to this report, we always looking forward to hear what are they saying and how are they going to assist, and also as a department, how can we intervene to change things around? So we are looking forward to listen to this presentation that we're going to receive from Mr. Mzila. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. Can we please go to apologies, Mr. Ariko? I have one apology from Honorable Ntlangwini, who is engaged in political work and will not join us today. Can we have other apologies?
Thank you, Chair. The only other, not apology really, Mr. Zingula, Chair, who indicated that he is on the road, so he might lose connection here and there, but he is on the platform, Chair. Those are the only apologies received, Chair. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Slepe.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Also, I might lose connection. I'm heading to the airport now. I might not have effective engagement with the committee today. Just accept my apology as when I'm losing the connection and the participation, I won't be effective. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Slepe. Honorable members, we will give Honorable Mani an opportunity to raise what he wanted to raise, and we'll take it from there. Honorable Mani?
Thank you, Chair. Perhaps before I even raise what I wanted to raise, I was going to suggest that maybe members when are speaking for the first time, maybe just show you a video so at least we can put a name to the face. I know there's connectivity issues, but maybe just for the brief second, then we can switch it off. Also to confirm that we're not talking to an AI. Chair, I wanted to just, in fact, also I saw on the program that was flighted that I'm listed as an alternate. Can that be clarified? Last I checked, I was a member of this committee, not an alternate. Can we just double check if it's a typo or maybe something I'm misunderstanding? But thank you, Chair, for your indulgence. What I wanted to propose, members, it doesn't have to happen today, but it could be for future meetings. But if it's today, it will also be fine. I think this portfolio has got a lot of entities that we deal with. So you find that with the limited time that we have, we then go through a whole lot of presentations. One presentation sometimes can take an hour and so on. Then you have another and another and another. And then you find that we then have 10 minutes each to deal with the matters out of the presentations. The view I have is that I think that 10 minutes, and that 10 minutes, by the way, includes your questions, and it also includes the responses from the relevant entity. I hold a view that that is way insufficient to deal with matters and all of that. It just robs the whole engagement process. It reduces the whole thing into a tick box exercise that people have been in parliament, people have engaged in, and that's it. So I wanted to propose that because at least there is a good discipline here of the reports being submitted timeously, that all reports that are submitted must be taken as read. And then the presenters of those reports, maybe just each given 5 minutes, if there are any key issues that they want to just highlight from those reports, and because the rest would have been submitted and all of that. So that's the first issue. Then the second point then to then say that maybe then there could be clarity-seeking questions because people would have read through technical areas of the report and all of that, clarity-seeking questions and all of that, and then we engage with the reports and all of that. I think if we did that, there'll be a much more qualitative engagement with the report. So that's what I'm proposing, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mani. Honorable Hassan, you want to say something on the proposal before I come in?
Yes, Chair, if you'll allow me to just air my view. I am processing what Honorable Mani has put across. Look, I think we need to understand some of the importance of why we get presentations in the Portfolio Committee. And while we agree that as honorable members, of course, we all pre-read and we all prepare for these meetings accordingly, which is why we can have a very in-depth kind of Portfolio Committee engagement. But the presentations, especially those that are live streamed, for example, for today, from the Minerals Council, is not only for honorable members, it's also for the public, and it's also in the interest of transparency and accountability. Quite a number of interest groups, NGOs, the public, people who own mines. If I'm a small scale miner, I also have an interest in what the big guys are doing in the Minerals Council. And what you often find is that the Portfolio Committee's presentations are used by even the media to garner information. And I think there's a very important role in not preventing that, even on a constitutional level, even on a transparency level, where we can have a discussion, Chair, is, giving those timelines, and you're quite clear and you chair those meetings very well. But I'd be very hesitant to remove those presentations precisely because of the points I've put across. I think the current format is working quite well. I think we've created a decorum and a level of respect, but we're also getting quite deep into some of those issues. So I wanted to actually propose, Chair, that we continue with the current status quo. Well, we can always revisit it in the future, but I think the way we're doing it's working quite well. But my biggest concern is really around taking away an opportunity from the public, who is the most important stakeholder, from actually understanding what happens in the department. Because if you just ask questions, they'll be so confused and they won't actually understand what's going on. So I'm a little bit hesitant to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Hassan. Honorable Senne.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, for allowing me this opportunity. Chair, I actually want to align myself with Honorable Hassan. We understand the value of having more time for discussion. However, Chair, I believe that the comprehensive presentations are very important because they lay a necessary foundation of the presentation. They also, they provide a critical context, actually, rather than reading. And when a person is presenting, you tend to understand much better. So I support the motion which says we should leave the current status quo. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Sene. Honorable Mufokeng.
Thank you, Chair, and greetings to members on the platform. Chairperson, I'm also suggesting that we retain the current format since it has proven effective for us so far. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mufokeng. Honorable Zondi.
Morning, sir.
Honorable Mhlongo, I'll come to you after Honorable Zondi.
Okay.
Honorable Zondi.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm happy with the current format as it is. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Zondi. Honorable Mhlongo.
Thanks, sir, and good morning to everyone. I would like to align myself with the others because it is so crucial that we understand what is being discussed. And whenever we ask questions, they are aligned with whatever was on the presentation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Mhlongo. Is there any other view? Going twice, once, gone. Honorable members, I strive to be as reasonable as possible, and I will continue to do that. What I can't do, though, is to take away one tool of accountability to the public, which is including what is being reported to the committee by entities and the department and other stakeholders, because the public is interested. It's a sector. So part of some of the people who are part of the sector, NGOs, like Honorable Hassan has said, are not only interested in what we say. The optics that we display is not the interest of the public alone. Yes, they want to hear what we say, holding the department accountable, but they are also interested in the content of what the department is presenting. There are many people, for instance, who are interested in knowing when is the cadastral system going live. And as part of one example, we can't just come and say, when is the cadastral system going to start? There must be a presentation that takes the public into confidence so that if it doesn't happen, the public says, the DG or the minister has said the following, and it was agreed that this is what you are going to do, and it has not happened. What is happening? They have a right to do that. But also, we are involved in a technical portfolio. You can read all you want, but some of the things need to be explained by technical experts or those that every day are dealing with the implementation of what we are doing now. So, Honorable Mani, I will strive to be, not to be prescriptive. I will use my discretion as a chair. Where reasonable, I will allow you to continue, not you only, but even other members. But honestly, we can't gag, because it's equal to gagging the presentations which are really in the best interest of the public. Honorable Slepe, I thought that was a summary that I was giving. Do you want to say something?
Yes, Chair. Chair, I don't know maybe whether it's gonna be in line with what maybe you can agree with me. I'm checking today, even if I will be online, can I perhaps donate with my time to Honorable Mani if it's allowed just for today, because I will be able to be listening, but I won't be able to engage because I will be traveling to the airport. And then can I perhaps allow him to utilize my time allocated to me to engage?
with all due respect, Honorable Slepe, thank you. We will not do that because it would mean that we are allocating minutes to a political party, which is not the case. We are allocating time to a present member who wishes to speak. And we will continue like that. Like I'm saying, I'm not going to be unreasonable. That is not my intention. We are going to allow people to speak openly, but we are saying you can't have an unfettered opportunity to just speak endlessly. We can't allow that. But as and when we go, we will try very hard to be very reasonable, but the meeting has to be controlled. Amongst other things, the task of the chair is to control the meeting, and I will do exactly that. I hope that we can pass this point, and we'll review if it's necessary to review, and we have made an assessment that this is not working for us. But so far, and by the way, we don't even have 7 meetings or 6 meetings having tried this system for us to come to a conclusion that it's not working. So we'll stick to it, and I will exercise some reasonability on it. Thank you very much, honorable members. Can I give over to the Minerals Council to give us a presentation and start probably exercising some of the proposals that were made, that maybe let's do high level presentations, not word for word, things that you think are important for the public as well as the committee. Over to you, Mr. Mzila.
Thank you very much, Chair. Am I coming through it clearly? Can you hear me?
Yes.
No, fantastic. And let me start by extending my greetings to yourself, as well as honorable members of Parliament, as well as the Portfolio Committee, to the Deputy Minister in the Department of Mineral Resources, Petroleum. I see the DG has also joined us, Mr. Jacob Mbele, as well as DDG Ntokozo, and your respective team members, as well as members of my team from the Minerals Council. And let me thank you very much for this opportunity to engage with yourselves. I think we coming together at a time of significant evolution in the mining industry around the world, but also some significant developments that are taking place in the country. We have prepared a couple of slides, and I think, having listened to previous inputs, we will highlight just the key points in each slide. And as you said, Chairman, not really read out what is written in the slide, and assuming that the slides have been read, because we did ensure that the slides were made available ahead of this meeting. I will be presented together with my colleagues. I will be accompanied by our Chief Economist, Hugo Pinar, Dibelo Chabane, Ms. Shamini Harrington, and most likely Ursula Brown, and one or two others if there are key points that need to be made. So if we move to the next slide, somebody will be driving the slides for me. Just a snapshot of the Minerals Council and who we are. We are an advocacy body on behalf of about 70 mining companies operating within South Africa, even though some of the members may be global. We are an advocacy body for their South African operations, mining commodities across a spectrum of minerals as listed on the bottom left-hand side. And this really is a reflection of the mineral endowment of the country. The members consist of seniors, as we call them, of which there are about between 30 and 35, half of the 70, as well as juniors. And these are the aspiring miners who are in exploration or will be operating some of the small mines in terms of one operation or two operations, as well as investing in exploration in order to grow. In 2024, the industry employed about 474,000 people, a significant contributor to GDP of 450 billion, which is approximately 6% of GDP, and continues to be a significant contributor not only to taxes but also to foreign exchange for the country. It is a contributor of approximately 50% of South Africa's foreign exchange. So you have invited us to talk to you about the state of the mining industry. And I think in summary, if we move on to the next slide, the mining industry is in a state of recession. And what we mean by that is that the technical definition of a recession is where in two successive quarters, you have a decline in the performance of the industry. And what this graph is showing is that South Africa has experienced about 3 periods during which, since 2022, it has experienced a recession. And there have been more periods when it has been in a recession rather than in a growth cycle. And the rest of the presentation will highlight some of the key challenges which have contributed to this recession. But I must also add very, very quickly to that a recession is not in any way an indication of an industry in sunset. Personally, the word sunset industry is an expression that I avoid, and at the best of times, I do not include in my vocabulary. From the previous slide, that mineral endowment of South Africa is also a reflection of the prospects that South Africa has in as far as the future exploration and growth of the mining industry. We're a country that still has significant resources beneath the surface, which we need to work together to translate and convert into wealth for people above surface. And so the presentation is not one of doom and gloom in as far as the South African mining industry is concerned. We have presented what I believe is a balanced view of where the mining industry is. And certainly the outlook for the South African mining industry is more positive than I think is often indicated. However, to be able to obtain that upside, it really is a function of how we, as leadership, both in politics and in business, will work together to realize this future potential for the benefit of South Africans. I will hand over to Hugo, who will then elaborate further on the state of the mining industry, and I will come in on the occasion maybe just to highlight on one or two issues and then conclude with the last couple of slides at the end. Hugo?
Thank you, Mzila. Good morning, honorable members. Thank you for this opportunity. So on this slide, we're just looking at, sorry, and I'll put my camera off while presenting. I just want to move the laptop a little bit closer. So in this slide just highlights what has happened to mining production in real terms. So if we adjust it for the impact of inflation so far this year. So we have the data up till April, and we can see here for most of the subsectors of mining, we saw a contraction in the first 4 months of the year. In other words, we produced less in the first 4 months of this year relative to the same period last year. We can see right at the bottom of the chart that the PGMs, or the platinum group metals, so things like platinum, palladium, and rhodium, they performed the worst. Iron ore was also under pressure, but then on the upside, we had minerals like manganese and copper, and these are, of course, minerals that will in future play an important role in the global energy transition, and supporting that transition. Those two performed quite well. In an overall sense, as you can see in the red bar, overall mining production was down by about 5% over this period. So quite a poor performance. Next slide, please. It's not showing on my side. Can we move to the next slide, please? Thank you. So I think it is important to make the point that in the first quarter of this year, the heavy rains we saw in certainly in the northern parts of the country had quite a detrimental impact on production. And this was across various sectors, be it in the platinum side, where some of the big mines experienced flooding. We saw it in gold. We saw it in chrome. Chrome is an important byproduct of platinum production. So those rain-induced problems on platinum also had a spillover effect on chrome. And then even yesterday, we had Exxaro, one of the big coal mining companies, in a trading update, also flagging the impact of heavy rains on some of their operations. So the weather did have one doesn't normally associate weather with having an impact on mining. It's more, as you know, on agriculture, for example. But in this case, it certainly did have a detrimental impact on mining. So the positive, if you will, of that is as we now move into the third quarter, and even I think in the second quarter, we should see some bounce back from that poor performance. If we look at profitability in the mining sector, that has been under pressure. This chart shows us in rand billions, the so-called gross operating surplus in the mining sector. So this is a broad measure of profitability. And that red bar, you can see it is the lowest in terms of the billions earned since the first half of 2020. Next slide, please. Here, we just wanted to make the point that over time, if you compare profitability in the mining sector, it tracks what happens to commodity prices, those prices that are important for the South African mining sector. Profitability tends to track prices quite nicely. So what we did here is just to index profitability and prices at a level of 100 in the fourth quarter of 2019. And the top two lines on that chart shows you how these two track. But look at the bottom two lines on the chart. Those show production in the mining sector. It shows mining GDP and also production, non-gold production. And we can see that the production is tracking below that 100 horizontal line, which tells us that production is still down relative to the fourth quarter of last year. So our producers, the production has not been that responsive to commodity prices, which in general have performed relatively well over the last 3 to 5 years. So that emphasizes the constraints that the sector is currently facing. Next slide. And I think those constraints are also, they really come through if we look at the spending on exploration in South Africa. So this is in real terms, and we can see how that chart is moving lower. Just to put it into perspective, let's say in 1993, we spent 100 rand on mineral exploration in South Africa. Last year in 2024, we spent less than 20 rand on exploration, if you put it in that way. So I think that emphasizes the concern here, and this we really need to turn around if we think of the future growth in the mining sector. Next slide. So I won't go through this. Mzila has already touched on it. The point we're trying to make here is despite the constraints and the relatively poor performance of late in the mining sector, it does still make significant contributions to the economy, be it on GDP, exports, and on employment. Next slide. Yeah, so just to say that if we just zoom in on investment, so mining is a capital intensive sector, and we can see it in this chart that once again, despite all of the constraints, 20% of private sector investment in South Africa comes from the mining sector. The problem, of course, is that the sector is investing. So you sometimes hear people talk about an investment strike in, for example, the mining sector. So we don't agree with that. The numbers suggest that there is significant investment by mining companies. The problem is that most of that investment is into current operations, to sustain current operations. Now, that still gives a boost to the economy, but what we really want to see is these companies invest for growth to expand their capacity. So that is the missing link at this stage. Next slide. This is just to give you a sense of two ways to think about the mining's contribution to GDP over time. The one is that is the solid line is if we exclude commodity prices. So we look at the volume of production and prices. If we look at it that way, mining's contribution over this 30-year period has been relatively sustained at around 6% of GDP. There has been fluctuations, of course, but in general, the contribution has remained relatively solid. If, on the other hand, we look at the dotted line, which is the real terms movement in that. So now we're just looking at production. You can see how that contribution has gone down. So the point of this slide is to show you that commodity prices or the increase in commodity prices has for many of the periods of the past 30 years has actually bailed us out. It has not been improvement in production. I must just quickly caveat that to say that there is, of course, within the different subsectors of mining, the trends are quite different. Some sectors have actually sustainably or consistently improved their production, but the overall sector has not. Next slide. This is just to show you that 5% in real terms. So if we don't take the prices into account of mining, how that compares to other sectors of the economy. But let me not go into the detail. Next slide. Okay, Tabela, I think you wanted to take over here in terms of the provincial impacts.
Good, honourable members. I hope everybody can hear me loud and clear. So in this, the following slides, we'll just look at mining's contribution to some key provinces, mainly the 4 provinces. And so I'll take you through essentially what some of the main commodities are, and maybe just touch on a few challenges, and then also talk to some key social and labour plans in each province. So Northwest, you can see mining is a major contributor in terms of our GDP at 30% of the province's GDP. You know, we do know that it features quite strongly in the PGM groups and the likes of chrome in this province. And yes, some of the challenges there are certainly some of the declining ore grades and rising costs of the operation, and some community and social unrest. Now, the challenges are quite common in a few of the provinces, so I might not repeat all of them. I thought it was important that I share with you maybe just 1 or 2 social and labour plans from each province. I think, you know, I think just so that you get sight of it, honourable members, of these things, but also I think, you know, there are lots of sometimes reports, for instance, the Marukua report that tried to speak to SLB compliance in the mining sector. I mean, that report was really deeply flawed. It had many inaccuracies, just factually incorrect in many respects. And what it also tried to do was really just highlight problematic projects, but not the successes. And I think the successes are also important. We've engaged our members on the report to also assess which of these projects are behind and so forth. So we are engaging them, and we are also encouraging them to essentially talk to these projects that have been successful and put it out there in the public. We have also offered to engage the Makua. So this particular project I just want to take you through is the Impala Peo Enterprise and Supply Development Fund that was launched to grow SMMEs, local SMMEs, with a seed funding of 50 million rand that will be deployed over 5 years, in the, Rustenburg, areas. So this is a key project, and it's going to be important, certainly for local job creation in the area. Moving on to the next province, and that is Limpopo. The total population of Limpopo is about 6.6 million. I think the mining workforce, there's about 27% of the mining workforce is in that province. I forgot to mention for the figure for Northwest, it was at about 28%. So this one has also got a substantial portion of the mining workforce. And again, PGMs, chrome do feature quite strongly in this province. One big challenge that we've had in this province and that we have tackled as a sector has been water infrastructure through the Lebelelo project. If I'm not mistaken, we're talking about a close to 24 billion rand investment that's required, partly funded by the mining companies into water infrastructure there, and infrastructure relating to transport and logistics. The one SLP project I wanted to mention there is the collaboration to build the new steel bridge to replace the old steel bridge in that Steelport Varied in Limpopo. And I'm sure some of you have seen that old steel bridge. So 8 mining companies have come together with a road agency, Limpopo, and they are funding the steel bridge to the tune of 120 million. What is important is that they're going to do some studies to see the kind of impact that this new bridge has. And as you can imagine, the positive impact that it has to just the general local economic development of the area in enabling the transportation is actually quite significant. And those kind of things will be shared in the future. The next province is Mpumalanga, where mining contributes 23% to the GDP of the province. Mpumalanga has got a total population of about 5.1 million people, and it is home to 15% of the mining workforce. And as you know, coal is a strong feature in that province. And as you can imagine, a concomitant challenge in this area will be climate change and just transition challenges, and clearly community discontent. What we are looking to do in Mpumalanga is to work together, and certainly some SLP projects are being repurposed in Imalahleni and reallocated to the improvement of water treatment and reticulation infrastructure through municipality. So this will be a big project. Moving to the Northern Cape. The Northern Cape, although it's got the largest surface area in South Africa of 372,000 square kilometers, it's the most sparsely populated at 1.4 million and only has about 6% of the mining workforce. But interestingly enough, though, a town called Katu in the Gamagara local municipality is the richest town in South Africa based on average taxable income per person. This info is from SARS, and is really due to iron ore mining. In fact, the Gamagara local municipality has the highest average income in the country. Second is the city of Johannesburg. So that puts it into context. And although there's a lot of strong iron ore manganese mining in this province, we do see it also as the new frontier of SA mining due to the exploration in copper, the developments in that regard that bode well for that province. Water scarcity is a major problem in this area, so is primarily road and rail infrastructure. to talk to that big challenge of water infrastructure. The mines in that area are working with government to refurbish the Vaal Gamagara water supply scheme. Now, this is not so much an SLP project. So this is in addition to the SLPs that the mines are doing. This project is to refurbish a 50-year-old pipeline that takes water from the Vaal and takes it through the various towns in the Northern Cape, right down through the Gamagara Basin, then to Black Rock area. So this project is essentially going to cost about 12 billion rand to refurbish this pipeline. The mines are funding 56%, and then government will be funding 44% of this project. But as you can imagine, this project will have a huge impact in the lives of those communities in that region. And water provides life, and water is absolutely essential for other economic activity in the region. Without it, you really cannot have that economic activity. So I've really just spoken to the main provinces where mining has an impact. In terms of big impact to GDP. But let's not forget, just maybe to mention the Free State as a province that was a lot stronger in mining, but in terms of its contribution, mining's contribution to the Free State is somewhat diminished, only at 6% now in the Free State. This has been, as you know, mining has been there for many, many decades. But, I do want to add that there's still some key social level projects that companies like Harmony are implementing in the Free State. I mean, one to speak of is that the water waste retreatment plant in Machabeng, Welkom. I mean, that had collapsed. So the infrastructure had collapsed, and so they initiated this project at a cost of 30 million rand. Another standout project in this province is the youth business hubs, youth business corners, where they're trying to encourage the youth to essentially start their own businesses. And then lastly, the province of Gauteng, as you can see, yes, they're still mining there, and they still have 17% of the mining workforce, but mining's contribution to the province is only 1%. But as you know, I mean, this is really the home of mining, and it is from here that we have the city of Johannesburg and the kind of infrastructure that's come from mining. As you also know, even the financial sector essentially rose on the back of mining, and many other sectors in the economy. So even though the mining's contribution to Gauteng is minimal at this stage, it's certainly the mining in the province has had a huge impact on the actual country itself. I'm going to move back to Hugo to start.
Thank you. So if we just look at employment, we've already spoken about employment in the mining sector. So these are very long-term trends since 1994. The top line is the overall mining sector, where employment, as you can see, has gone from over 600,000 to just below 500,000. But I think it is important to split this up, to nuance it by looking at gold versus non-gold employment. The dotted line is on gold, and we can see the dramatic decline in the number of people employed in the gold mining sector over the past 30 years. If we strip out gold, we look at the other sectors of mining, you can see the middle line has actually been tracking higher over this period. Now, that has not been sufficient to make up for the loss in gold. That's why the top line has trended down over time. But just to Mazila's point at the start of this engagement, this reflects the fact that we don't see mining as a sunset, that middle chart, where many of the sectors in mining has, first of all, grown production and increased employment over this period. Just to say that the latest numbers we have on overall employment is not good. So the mining sector, according to Stats SA's quarterly employment statistics, lost more than 3,000 jobs in the first quarter of 2025, the latest data we have. And if we look over the past year, so the first quarter this year versus first quarter last year, we're about 13,800 jobs that were lost in mining, most of those in the PGM sector due to very depressed PGM prices and profitability. But I'll come back to that because there is a silver lining starting to emerge on the PGM story. Next slide. So we thought just to give a bit of global context to the mining sector. And of course, what we've seen so far this year is very much what the US is doing and Mr. Trump is doing on tariffs, significant import tariff increases on many of South Africa's main trading partners. So what we just wanted to highlight here is the IMF, or the International Monetary Fund, what they've done to their growth forecasts for this year, and we compare their April forecast relative to what they said at the start of the year. So towards the right of this table, the downward revision, you can see across the board in South Africa's major trading partners, these growth forecasts have been downgraded. Right at the bottom, the global number in April, they said the global economy is now expected to grow by 0.5 percentage point less than what they thought in the beginning of the year. Now, of course, since April, there have been some developments. Some of these tariff increases have been postponed, and the global economy in general, especially in the US, has actually performed relatively well so far this year. We now await next week, the 9th of July, when the postponement, the 90-day postponement to tariff increases come to an end. And then we will only really know the quantum or the magnitude of these tariff increases. Suffice to say, it remains a key risk to global growth this year. Next slide. Let's skip this slide, Tabella, and then go on to the impact of tariffs, in particular on South Africa and the mining sector. So this is just to give you a sense of what we export to the US. And you can see in this pie chart that precious metals, the majority of our income in terms of exports to the US comes from precious metals. And within that, it is very much, you can click on, it is very much a PGM story where the majority of those come. Now, thankfully, up till now, PGMs have been excluded from these tariff increases. But we still need to see after the 90 days, and there's also an investigation into so-called critical mineral imports into the US ongoing. So we've dodged the bullet up till now, but we'll need to see how it pans out in the end. But let me just say, from a mining sector, our key exposure to the US would be on the PGM side through the demand for vehicles in the US. We know there's significant import tariffs on vehicles coming into the US already. So that, we think, is where the key link from US tariffs will flow into our mining sector. Next slide. This is just to emphasize that as per normal, and because South Africa has such a diversified mining sector, we are shielded somewhat against periods of increased global uncertainty. And where the shield comes from is from the gold price often. So yes, South Africa is no longer such a major producer of gold, but we do still have. And if the gold price increases significantly, that still gives us a lot of export revenue. And it also impacts profitability in the domestic mining sector. So chart is just to show you how significantly the significant increase in the JSE Gold Mining Index in recent months, way outperforming what we see in global stock markets in the US and in Europe. Next one. On this slide, we just showing you that increase in the gold price relative to other commodities that are of importance to South Africa. So gold is right at the top here. And just to say, we are indexing all of these prices to 100 at the end of 2023. So we can see what happened last year, so far this year. And just so that we can plot all of these prices on one chart and on one scale, because of course their prices vary quite significantly. So gold is the standout performer. But just to briefly come back to the PGMs story. So PGMs have been under pressure for a long time, but just in the last couple of months, we've seen quite a breakout in those prices. So just to give you some numbers to that. So we're now, of course, at the end of the first 6 months of this year, at the end of June, so yesterday, relative to the end of December last year, the platinum price is up by 48% in dollar terms. The chart I'm showing you is in rand terms, so we are taking account of the movement in the rand. But in dollar terms, up 48%. The rand has strengthened by 6% over this period, so that does dilute that 48% somewhat, but it's still a significant increase even in rand terms. Palladium is up by 25% in the first 6 months of this year. Rhodium is up by 20%. So that even outpaces the increase we've seen on gold, which is 25% so far this year. So excluding diamonds, diamonds are under a lot of pressure still, but the other precious metals prices are performing well so far this year. Where we have a problem is on the bulk commodity side, both coal and iron ore. So the bottom two lines on that chart, they have been under pressure. The chart is not quite updated with last week's data, so that's why you see oil price spiking up there in the chart. That, of course, was the Israel-Iran conflict, but subsequent to that, we've seen oil come down quite nicely. I think this is the last slide from my side, just to give you a sense of where the enablers for growth will come from. Sorry, I actually think there are a couple of more from my side, but just to summarize some of the growth, we need to see energy reforms continue, logistics, and Tebelo has spoken about water and municipalities. So all of those factors are currently constraints, but thankfully they are all being worked on through the Operation Vulindlela process, and that bodes well for mining growth in future. Next slide. Okay, I'm going to skip through this very quickly. This is just Eskom's energy availability factor. So that percentage of Eskom's installed capacity that is available to the grid at any particular point in time. And the point here is just last year that EAF improved quite nicely. It's still not where we want it to be, but it has improved. And so far this year, it is roughly sustained at that improved level of around 60%. Again, not where we want it to be, but currently that 60% is sufficient to ensure that we don't have load shedding. Next slide. Then logistics. So I mentioned to you that in terms of the bulk commodity prices, coal and iron ore, that the prices are under pressure. But it's not just the prices that are impacting these companies. It is, of course, also Transnet's poor rail performance. So the orange bars is the total tonnages that Transnet has shipped over the last couple of years. We peaked at 226 million tons back in 2017-18. It came down all the way to just below 150 million tons in 22-23. We have now started to recover. The 161 you see here for 2024-2025, I have an update on that. The final number was 160 million tons. So we are now up to 160 from roughly 150. The 160 was a disappointment because although it signals recovery, the initial target for 24-25 was 170 million tons. So that was not met. And subsequent to that, the target of 193 million for the current financial year from transit that will end in March 2026 has been downscaled to 180 million tons. So it is a recovery, which we certainly are thankful for, and it is supported through the work of the National Logistics Crisis Committee, but it has been slow going, or slower than hoped for. A bit of positive news, if we look at the numbers so far this year, and I'm going to give you an update on this, because just yesterday we also got the May numbers for this. So this is the tonnages of bulks commodities that we've exported in the first, well, I'm going to give it to you in the first 5 months of this year. The total was up by 5% a year on year in terms of volume. So we are making progress. Just on coal, I checked in with the Richards Bay Coal Terminal this morning. They are tracking 55 million tons of coal exports for this year, the calendar year, and that will be up from just over 50 last year if that is achieved. So again, we are making progress on logistics, but a lot more needs to be done to get to the ultimate target. Next slide. Yes, I think that was me. Thank you.
Thanks, Hugo, and good morning, honorable members. I've put my camera on just for a few seconds to show my face, but I'm going to switch it off also to get closer to the screen. I think just in terms of water, this is changing tact a little bit from what we've heard thus far. I just want to spend some time on some of the key areas of collaboration that the mining sector is involved in, and water is one of these. You heard from Tebelo regarding the Vaal Gamagara project, but it is an irreplaceable resource for us. It's a critical lifeline for the mining sector. It is essential for many of our activities, but we live in a semi-arid region, which is exacerbated by climate change impacts. You heard from Hugo, the many companies that are being impacted by weather, and water is one of those issues that is causing production disruptions. So it's critically important that we find ways to be able to ameliorate this impact. And what we're seeing is that there's no single entity that can solve this problem alone. We need partnerships between government, industry, and communities. And the Vaal Gamagara is one of these big infrastructure projects that we are then working on. But I think it's critically important to understand there's various other industry-wide initiatives. It's not just the big capital projects. And these include investment into water treatment technologies like reverse osmosis and other kind of efficiency improvements, as well as benchmarking in terms of water use efficiency that we as the Minerals Council is collaborating with the Department of Water and Sanitation. I think overall here, I just wanted to highlight the importance of public-private partnerships and some of the successes one is seeing in the space that can be replicated to see better improvements on a critical resource. If we move to the next slide. In terms of an opportunity for us, it is old mined land and repurposing thereof. This is a huge opportunity. We have aging mines and over 6,000 derelict sites, and we really should be looking at ways to then advance or reutilize this land for the purposes of the just transition in light of many of the areas like Mpumalanga, where a just transition is going to be critically important over time in light of climate change. So the various opportunities here, however, there are a number of policy gaps that must be closed. We need coherent long-term strategies to transform these lands into hubs for economic revival, such as jobs, renewable energy, agriculture. We can also have environmental restoration, as well as social justice in terms of inclusive development for mining communities. It's critically important that we understand that weak governance equals failed rehabilitation. So we need strong, transparent models to ensure accountability in water and land management and fair benefit sharing with affected communities. So there's lots of work here, and we're working closely between the DMPR, DWS, as well as the DFFE and ourselves to be able to achieve this objective as we move forward. We'll move to the next slide. I wanted to spend some time on some of the issues that are quite topical at the moment. I saw an article over the weekend relating to pension funds and unclaimed benefits, and wanted to give you some background as to how the mining sector, as well as our work with the Minerals Council, is assisting ex-mine workers to access unclaimed benefits. One of this is through the Mine Workers Provident Fund, which is a fund that helps ex-mine workers in terms of retirement post-mining. And it's important to understand that here we play an active role together with the Mine Workers Provident Fund to be able to help track and trace some of these miners to be able to access unclaimed benefits. I saw in the article that was released over the weekend, this is upwards of about 90 billion that is there, but this is across the whole of industry, not just mining, and mining sector has a portion of this in terms of unclaimed benefits. So there's a need for us to really help assist and move in terms of getting ex-mine workers to be able to claim their provident and pension fund claims. So this is where the Mine Workers Provident Fund has played an active role. There have been a number of outreach campaigns, and this is in collaboration with many other entities. So really a very important initiative that's being undertaken, but there's also specialized tracing. Just to give you an idea of some of the improvements we've seen is the fund has disbursed in excess of 620 million and has settled approximately 8,300 valid claims. The Minerals Council itself has played an active role here as a sponsor of the fund, and we have our members with employee trustees being nominated onto the board of the Mine Workers Provident Fund. If we move on to the second element of unclaimed benefits, which is related to occupational diseases, specifically the Medical Bureau and the Compensation Commissioner for Occupational Diseases. And here, this has been a long-standing partnership that the Minerals Council and our members has had with the Department of Health. And we have undertaken this through a voluntary levy over and above the statutory levy to improve efficiencies at the CCOD and the MBOD. And to date, we have seen performance that is really very successful, and we've advanced a number of initiatives to the point where we've seen commitments to about approximately 310 million rand being committed over 6 years. This has seen improvements in the number of claimants being able to access their claims. And we've seen this over a space of just 9 years, as opposed to over 25 years, where only 3.32 billion was able to be paid out. So this represents about 60% of claims, which is about 62,000 claims finalized over these 9 years out of 104,000 claims paid over 25 years. So you can see the efficiencies we've gained through the partnership between business and government to be able to get those efficiencies going. Just some additional information, some of the different activities range from also tracking and tracing ex-mine workers to be able to identify occupational diseases and ensure that ex-mine workers get the help they so need. We are also looking at infrastructure rollout, and we've done so with end-to-end type infrastructure, which has greatly helped in able to ensure that the CCOD is paying out verified claims. We are also working to be able to get audits and various unqualified audits through the CCOD, which has been the case since 2019 and when this partnership began. Prior to 2019, the Minerals Council and its members have also been participating with the department through other projects that allowed for setup of one-stop shops, if you'd like, that commitments of about 42 billion were made. And this has also allowed for the tracking and tracing of ex-mine workers across the country. If we move on to the next slide, I thought it's important to also highlight some other areas of collaboration, particularly our Women in Mining initiative, which is one of our flagship projects here at the Minerals Council. And I'm going to really hone in on gender-based violence and femicide. And I think it's important to understand that the industry has zero tolerance to GBVF. And we've been participating on a number of initiatives since about 2021. We've done surveys, we've developed dashboards, and we are reporting on this. We've partnered with the Office of the Presidency on a 100-day challenge to localize a lot of these into the National Strategic Plan. We've developed educational videos, established various forums, and again, various other campaigns to generate awareness and ensure that women in mining get the support they need to be able to undertake the work that's so greatly needed. A big project that we are looking at here and we've kicked off is development of Thuthuzela care centers, which is care centers that allow for women to get the assistance they need. And this is in partnership with the National Prosecuting Authority and the GBVF Response Fund. And it aims to improve GBVF prevention and response efforts in mining host communities. And we've had commitments from our members upwards of 21 million, of which 11 million is from our members. So you can see on the slide some of the many companies that have already participated in developing and building these Thuthuzela care centers, which has really increased awareness and visibility and signage for where women can gain the help they need. Thank you. If you move to the next slide. Also important, you've heard the speakers before me speak about the just transition in relation to climate change. Climate change is a big issue for the mining sector. We're a sector that is impacted by climate change, but also has a great deal of a role to play in enabling a low carbon future for South Africa. We are the start of the critical minerals value chain, which leads to opportunities in electric vehicles, as well as green hydrogen development and many other renewable energy type projects that are then unleashed through having large scale renewable energy that needs critical minerals. So this sector is really very important for the low carbon future. And for us, we are playing a role in terms of supporting the long-term goals of the Paris Agreement and the nationally determined contribution that the country has put forward. Just a fancy way of saying a target for the country. We are contributing to that. We are also responding by shifting our value pools and adapting to local climate change impacts. And really, we are trying to leverage social and labor plans that you heard Tabelo speak about, also closure plans. And we want to be able to align this, and we are aligning this with the Just Transition, which focuses on social development projects within the community. I spoke quite a bit about the repurposing of mined land, which holds opportunities for the just transition, and finding new ways of creating employment in communities that are impacted by the move away from fossil fuels. We also have participated in the development of the Presidential Climate Commission's Just Transition Framework principles that have governed the way in which we undertake these types of projects, particularly by inclusive participation of all stakeholders, including youth as well as women. And we really ascribe to the principles of distributive justice, procedural justice, and restorative justice, which underpins how the just transition in South Africa should be undertaken. I spoke quite a bit about the opportunity that exists with the mining sector, but the mining sector itself is contributing very positively to the energy insecurity challenges that South Africa is facing. We have developed and deployed renewable energy in the gigawatt scale. We have also implemented various energy efficiency programs within our mining operations. And there are various other mines within South Africa that are taking a leading role in electrification and automation to really deliver higher productivity. And again, just to reiterate, critical minerals are needed for the low carbon future, and the mining sector is most certainly the sector to be able to deliver on this global rush towards critical minerals. And we have the largest reserves of these critical minerals in South Africa. I'm going to stop there and hand back to Mzila. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shamini, for that. And maybe quickly move on to another topic that is top of mind in the industry as a way of continuing to enhance the competitiveness of the industry is what we're doing on technology and innovation. And I think what is an important takeaway on this topic is that the way that the industry has been adopting and adapting some of the recent technologies has not been for the reason of replacing people, but rather enhancing the manner in which people continue to operate. And as a result, providing skills, additional skills to people. And this is something where there continues to be significant future opportunities. I must also add, though, that there will be instances where in the development of new mines, these will be technologically driven to a large extent, such as remote mining, but these will still need people, and it just means that there'll be fewer but higher skilled people. And in as far as the creation of new employment opportunities, I would like to believe that it is in downstream industries as well as the creation of other industries where we will see a significant absorption of and creation of new opportunities, all of which will have been on the back of a growing and successful mining industry. And so the adoption of these technologies is across a number of areas. It is, on the most important area of safety and health, where we've seen with on the safety side and operations, for instance, having lighter machinery and more mechanized mining, it is actually creating opportunities for women to participate. And so mining is becoming less a industry where there's a need for muscle, but rather one where there's more cognitive and more brain functioning, if I can call it that, for lack of a better word. And this is opening up opportunities for a much wider sector of our population. And we're seeing as well on the environmental side in terms of water and tailings management, where there are new standards as well that will improve on the safety. The drive for carbon efficiency and dealing with Scope 1 is also resulting in significant technology improvements. And if you move on to the next slide to pick up on this last section, as a Minerals Council, we're also working very closely with government through several agencies and departments in looking at new technologies as well as research and development that can improve and enhance the competitiveness of the mining industry. And perhaps to repeat the point, the whole exercise of technology and innovation is really one that is people-focused, and looking at how the functioning of people in the workplace is complemented with these new technologies. But there will also be, going forward, a role, as we've seen coming through in some areas for robotics. But we like to believe that these will also provide for additional skills for people to do much more superior work. And the more repetitive, and I'll call it dull work, is the kind of work that will be done by machines. Next slide. There's been mention of critical minerals, and as South Africa, this is not a new area, if I can dare to say that, because when you look at minerals such as PGMs, chrome, manganese, these have been part of our mining industry for a while. And in the graph that Hugo showed, where he separated non-gold from other mining, the bulk commodities as well as PGMs are the areas of mining where we've seen consistent growth, despite some downward trends with the cycle of mining that we've seen in the past. Gauteng, the province of gold, is where significant amount of gold has been mined for over 100 years, and we are reaching our technological limits in terms of mining, and hence we've seen this decline. The deepest mine is close to 4 kilometers. There is belief to be more gold deeper, but the safety and health aspects to be able to operate at those depths require much more research and development. I think this is one area where we're more likely to see the robotics operating at those levels rather than exposing people to dangers, to the extent that we can access those resources. The critical mineral strategy was released by the DMPR a couple of weeks ago alongside the amendment bill, and we've been reviewing that. And I have also been receiving comments in my travels recently from other international bodies. It's a welcome document. I think overall it is leading the way in terms of providing a perspective of what is critical from a country like South Africa and from a perspective of what we call our supplier countries compared to the critical minerals definitions that we've seen from what we call the global north. And we'll probably see more supplier countries doing the same. And it will also allow for informed and insightful conversations for South Africa with its counterparts during the events of the G20 and exploring ways in which South Africa can maximize its potential and its prospects from these critical minerals. What is still required is a specific plan that enables us to embark as quickly as possible on exploiting these minerals and getting the most benefit out of them, both in terms of exploration, followed by mining, as well as looking at the beneficiation opportunities, especially as we're beginning to see a turnaround in as far as electricity supply and responding to the challenge of the cost of electricity as well as logistics to be able to ensure that these commodities and mineral products reach markets both within the country, the region of SADC and the continent, but also offshore in terms of other markets as well. Next slide. Illegal mining, I think we saw what I could call is the peak of this unfortunate activity in over December and January at the Stilfontein mine. It still continues, but I'd like to think it's to a limited level. And I think what is important to highlight here is that we should not confuse illegal mining with artisanal and small-scale mining. I think there are very specific arguments to be made as to why it is illegal mining and how it can be distinguished from what is informal mining, but on the side of artisanal and small-scale mining. The Stilfontein incident helped us understand and dig deeper in terms of what are some of the drivers of this type of mining, and also gave us an opportunity to understand how we can approach the more informal mining, which we see presents an opportunity for small-scale mining as a means of providing economic opportunities for many people within South Africa. But at the same time, it's also important that the appropriate legislative environment be provided to enable artisanal small-scale mining to succeed and to be able to deal effectively with illegal mining. And we've seen the amendment bill making some provisions to be able to respond to illegal mining, as well as the response from law enforcement in terms of being equipped to deal with the whole value chain of illegal mining, be it with illegal entry at the borders to people setting up illegal businesses to illegally access mines, and vice versa, from the illegal mining activity into illicit trading of these commodities. Next slide. Dibela, let me hand back to you on this one in terms of how we see ourselves repositioning social development.
Thanks, Mzila. So I have touched...
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Ndade. Yes.
Can I ask how many more slides are left?
Honorable Chair, it is
about 5 or 6.
2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, go ahead.
I will be quick then, Chair. So, Chair, I think the social level plans are an important instrument in the mining sector. We as an industry are estimating that in 2023, the industry spent about 4.9 billion on SLPs, including HRD. But we do feel, though, that there are challenges that we have with SLPs, in particular when it comes to stakeholders and their view on SLPs and the impact on SLPs and their delivery. We do think that we've got an opportunity to advocate for a different approach to social development. And we, certainly are trying to look at what we can do in crafting strategies that deliver more improved social outcomes. So we are encouraging our members to embed more comprehensively their social performance within their strategy. And we will also be engaging quite extensively with the regulator on trying to ensure that we enable greater collaboration on SLPs. We've got this window of opportunity with the review of the MPRDA, and we do think it's important that these are aligned closer to IDPs and the DDM's one plans. And quite importantly for us, we also will be talking at some stage about a transformation that is a lot more inclusive, impactful, and in an enforceable measurement framework, but that's for later. I want to touch on the transformation of the mining sector just very quickly. I think as we are a bit of in a transition period, in that the 5-year period for the charter was in 2023. The industry has been reporting to the regulator annually in terms of our SLPs and our mining charters, but because we didn't have a standardized reporting template, we are reporting in various formats, which presents a bit of a challenge. But just a quick highlight on some of the achievements. On employment equity, we are close to achieving most of our targets, except struggling when it comes to African and coloured females in some occupational levels. And you'll see on the HRD side, we have achieved a 5% spend based on total leviable amount. Inclusive procurement, the 70% target has been exceeded for goods, and the 80% target, though, for services was narrowly missed. ESD, the industry is contributing about 1.8 billion towards development and growth of emerging businesses. And our BE ownership, as you know, on a weighted average based on the membership that we surveyed, is about 39%. I don't think we need to really cover this slide. It is quite a busy slide, just essentially providing a bit of a SWOT analysis of the mining industry. It is a bit wordy, but Chair, I'll skip it. And
Sorry,
then
Tubela, I think this is part of my concluding slide, the last slide that I wanted to use to close the presentation. And the aim is not to go through the slide, but I think it's a typical SWOT analysis of the industry that we have done in the recent past, and we review. And a couple of takeaways here, Chair, and to honourable members, is that I think what we've tried to present to yourself is that the South African mining industry remains a key pillar of South Africa's economy. Whilst it has experienced a recession in the past, and as a result of issues related to electricity and logistics and other infrastructure, we're seeing a very, very positive response in terms of the collaboration between business or within business itself, especially within the mining industry, where there are clusters of mining companies. But I think more importantly, at a national level, the efforts of Operation Vulindlela and more recently Operation Vulindlela 2.0 are beginning to show results where electricity and logistics are concerned. And I think we're also going to begin to see some very positive results in terms of crime and corruption and some of the other areas that have been identified. Now, specifically when it comes to the mining industry, it's an industry that has been operating for more than 100 years, and I like to believe it still has another 100 years to go. And this is one of the key strengths that the industry possesses, that we need to leverage today and going into the future for South Africa's development and maintaining South Africa's leadership as a destination for investment and mining in order to grow the mining industry. We have a significant and a huge opportunity right now where, given the mineral endowment that we have across a whole spectrum of industries, which fall both in the category of critical minerals as defined by the rest of the world, but also critical minerals as we have defined for ourselves, to leverage that for development, which we need in order to provide for economic opportunities for South Africans, which then will lead to a prosperous society. But to do that, we do need to acknowledge our current weaknesses, which we have outlined. And I think to a large extent, we are dealing with a lot of those weaknesses. The threats that we're seeing, emerging, be they of a geopolitical nature in terms of how we position ourselves and show our strength is important. But also economic trends globally in terms of potential future demands for our products. It means that we do need to act with speed as well in order to take advantage of the opportunities. And so that, in essence, is what the whole SWOT analysis is about. That I think it's something that should bring us all together in what I'd like to think is politics and profit for the benefit of our people in South Africa and the region, in as far as what the mining industry can provide. I'll end it there, and I think the last slide is really just a conclusion which members can read for themselves. Perhaps, one of the key oversights in the presentation that I've just realized, Chair, is that we did not include slides on how the industry has been performing in terms of safety and health. Overall, the trends for safety and health are in the right direction in terms of reduced number of people being injured and fatalities. We have, unfortunately, though, this year started off on a bad footing, where the trend in terms of fatalities for the year to date compared to the same period last year is higher than what we have experienced. And this has been largely attributable to the deeper level gold mining industry. And this is something that CEOs in the industry are both, not only in the gold mining industry, but overall, are giving attention to, in terms of understanding what are the causes and how do we respond to that in order to get back to previous trends where we see a significant reduction of safety. From a health perspective, I think Shamini has provided some of the areas where we're really seeing some good winnings, and we think we will be able to continue this trend in terms of the health of employees on our mines. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mtanjane and your team, for a very comprehensive presentation. Honorable members, any take on the presentation? Honorable Manye. Okay. We still only have Honorable Manye.
And Mam Mhlongo.
Honorable Mhlongo.
Yeah.
Honorable Zondi. Maybe let me start by explaining this, Mr. Mtanjane and the team. So a member will choose how they want to pose questions, whether it's one question and an answer, or it's questions at the same time and then you answer. So we allow it to be an interactive process. But because I always give members to ask first and I end up not asking, I have just 4 questions to start today before I allow honorable members. The first question is really something that, for lack of a better word, is not making sense to me. And I would appreciate it if you were to make it make sense to me. So the report says the mining sector as a whole is contributing 5% GDP to the country. And if you look at Sasol's GDP contribution, is also at 5-point-something%. And Sasol is a member of the Minerals Council. Are you saying to me all the mines in South Africa contribute the same with Sasol as a company? Something to me does not make sense. But also, because Sasol is your member, on the 5% that you are talking about, clearly you have not included Sasol. And even if you have to include the mining part of Sasol, it will change the correct statistics in terms of the entire GDP that is contributed by the mining sector. The second point is, and again, something that should make sense to me that does not make sense to me. When we were in COVID-19, where load shedding was the order of the day, mines were operating at 50% workforce. Also, their operations were 50%, half, not 100%. But the trajectory shows that that's where mining did well compared to now that we are operating at 100% workforce and stable electricity. To me, there's something that is amiss. If you can make it make sense for me. The fourth one is the SLPs. Have you agreed with the department on the SLP reporting cycle so that you avoid what appears to be a misunderstanding or a distortion of the performance of mines in delivering on the SLPs, because we don't want SLPs to be a ticking box. You are issued a mining license on the basis of what you have said you will do to the communities. But often there seems to be no convergence between the Minerals Council, the department, and the communities out there on what really gets delivered and what does not get completed when we deal with SLPs. The last point is Sasol again is a member of the Minerals Council, and the Minerals Council also represent the junior miners, not only the big companies, also the junior miners. Now, Sasol announced that they are going out of the export business, meaning they are no longer taking their coal via the Richards Bay terminal. And they have an allocation there. And the junior miners are fighting for what we call quadro allocation, meaning 4 million tons. And Sasol, if I'm not mistaken, has got an allocation of 5 or 4.6%, meaning 4,600,000 allocation in terms of tons. And I want to link this with the transformation of junior miners to graduate into big mines in South Africa. Shouldn't you be starting a conversation to say, whatever allocation that Sasol had and they're going out of business, you allocate to junior miners so that they also strive to get to where the big mines are in terms of their standing, rather than taking it to Tungela, as the case may be. And I have nothing against Tungela. I just think that they are more at an advantage than those who wish to grow. Thank you. You can answer my questions now so that I go to Honorable Mani.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks for those questions. I think on the first question on GDP contribution, I will leave that to the economist, Hugo, to respond to, as well as perhaps the COVID-19 and load shedding in terms of mines operating at 50%. But what I can say to that is one of the anomalies that we saw during COVID, and for a period of about 6 to 12 months, was a sharp rise in some of the commodity prices, particularly coal. And I hope I'm remembering this correctly, but I'll let the younger people in my team just come in and correct me. And I think as the point was made, firstly, the mining industry received concessions from government to be able to operate. And one of the reasons for that was that the industries that were critical to the economy, and it was important for those industries to operate in order to be able to provide government with tax revenue, to be able to uphold, health services, which were obviously a critical service at the time. And so mining, I think, earned the designation of an essential service. So whilst we were constrained with electricity, I think to Hugo's point, prices came to save the day for the production that we're able to generate during that time. And I let him elaborate on that. I'll let Tibelo answer the question on the social and labor plans, but that's an area of continued conversation between ourselves and the department in terms of how we bring in a new way of thinking on social and labor plans, including reporting. And then with regards to the Sasol allocation, I'll be reserved in my response there, Chair, because I think part of the response also needs to come from Transnet. And in my previous job, one of the key concerns from a Transnet perspective around allocation was in relation to certainty of production that will be on those trains and associated with that allocation. And so as a result, there tends to be a bias for larger mines which will have production over an extended period, rather than where there will be smaller mines where the production may be volatile or short-term in life, and then there's a need for renegotiation. So I guess there's a conversation that needs to be had, not only with ourselves but with Transnet in terms of what are some of the key considerations to enable the juniors to operate, because they operate at a different scale to the large miners. Hugo, do you want to come in on that GDP contribution and Sasol, if you are able to respond to it?
Sure, Mzila. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think we can clarify the Sasol's contribution versus mining. I think, Chair, just bear in mind that Sasol, their main operation is, of course, petrochemicals. So that is a manufacturing operation. They mine coal, of course, but that coal mining is a relatively small part of what Sasol does. That coal mining is, of course, the input in their petrochemical plants. So if you look at Sasol's contribution to GDP, it spans manufacturing, which would be the biggest contribution on the manufacturing side, and mining. And And so I think that, in a nutshell, is the answer to which seems like a sort of a weirdness in the numbers, but it's actually not. You're comparing mining on the one side, and then you're comparing manufacturing and mining. And of course, Sasol is one of the biggest listed companies in South Africa, so they do indeed make quite a sizable contribution to the economy. But not, of course, I mean, they would not employ this. So we have to be careful here in terms of GDP contribution, employment contribution, export contribution. So you're just focusing on GDP. If we look at exports, yes, Sasol is important, but they would not nearly contribute as much to overall exports than the total mining sector does, and certainly also not on employment. Quickly on COVID and power, bear in mind that because the economy crashed in 2020, so demand was particularly weak. I mean, the real GDP contracted by about 6% in 2020. So there was a limited demand for electricity during the height of COVID. So Eskom was able to supply to that limited demand. So we did not suffer load shedding during that COVID year of 2020. The load shedding came in 2022 and 2023, in particular, as we were recovering, as the economy was recovering out of COVID. Thank you.
On the SLPs there, honorable members. I mean, we as a mining sector, bear in mind that we do have regulations in place that we have to adhere to. We do report on an annual basis to the DMPR in terms of the progress of implementing our social and labor plans. And in many provinces, we do know and have seen the DMRE does do audits where they actually go on site and engage with not only the mine, but also stakeholders relating to the implementation of the transformation objectives. So these are on-site audits that are done. And Chair, the SLPs are now public documents. Mining companies must put these SLPs that have been approved, I think that's important, approved SLPs on their websites and make them available in certain key languages that the local communities understand. And then also, Chair, the new regulations that came in from the DMPR, I think just post 2021, was that, remember that you're meant to be consulting 3 times a year in terms of the SLPs with your communities, and you must report on that consultation. So Chair, there are some measures in place to try to ensure that communities are reporting.
Okay, Mr. Chaban, my time is
sorry, Chair.
Unfortunately. Honorable Mani, as you lower your hand, can you come?
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson. Quickly, first I want to welcome the presentations, but I must just comment that these beautiful presentations are not a reflection of what is happening on the ground. Wherever there's mining, there is a very disgraceful environmental surrounding. You can go to Khalishiwe, you can go to Kutsong, you can go to Marikana. You don't find it is a beautiful, powerful, this beautiful presentation, this beautiful PowerPoint. Oh my goodness, PowerPoints. Oh. Hey, Chair, I'm in the office here, and I don't know. I think there's some workers here somewhere. Anyway,
Honorable Mani,
yeah, can you hear me?
Can you settle while I continue with someone else, and you'll indicate when you're fine?
All right, let me proceed. Maybe it's quiet now.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm just saying, firstly, I'm not finding the expression of MPRDA section 3.1 that talks to mining being the heritage of people of this country. Chair, let me come back. There's too much drilling here. I'll come back.
Okay. Fair enough. Honorable Mshongo.
Thanks a lot, Chairperson, and thanks for the presentation. It was tantamount, and I've got some few questions. My first question is on the specific challenges faced by the mining industry. But I will only touch on the two, the environmental sustainability. It is said mining operations in South Africa faces pressure to reduce their carbon emission and footprints, minimize waste production, and mitigate the environmental impacts of their activities. As you have alluded on the increase on the production, do you find it easy to move positively with the mining sector and still meet the mining expectations apart from this challenge? My second question is, when looking at the regulatory uncertainty, mainly focusing on the challenges in regulations and on the changes, not challenges, on the changes in regulations and policies, as well as adherence, this might cause disruption and delays. Do you find this as a challenge? If so, how do you jump over this leap? The data that is being captured and reported here or in this regard comes from the Mineral Council. What is the Mineral Council's reporting process with the mining companies and the frequency of this report to and fro? The verification of the acquired information, meaning the frequency of the information, is it being verified? What company information is not shared with the council? Lastly, transformation is a priority area for this government. However, media results indicate that the Mineral Council has a different approach on how this can be achieved. Compared to the current minister and the department, my question is based on what is the Mineral Council's understanding on transformation of the South Africa's mining industry and how it believes this will be achieved so as to yield positive and accepted results. Thank you.
Mr. Mtenjana and your team.
Thank you, Chair, and some fantastic questions there. I will touch high level and where I can go into a little bit of depth, but I will ask Debela and the team to respond to those. Maybe let me start with the last one around transformation approach by the mining industry as it would manifest through our members. I mean, I think in terms of transformation, we have a history of having adopted and adapted to the mining charter as well as the BE codes of good practice where they're applicable, and as far as possible really achieved, and in some areas, as was indicated, overachieved. So we're not pursuing transformation in any way different to what has been provided through the legislation as well as the industry charters. There are some areas that we believe there's been some good lessons learned, and there's an opportunity to do better and to do more. And these are largely on the social impact side when it comes to be it social and labor plans or the CSI. And what we've seen is that a compliance approach has been very limiting because it leads to a certain behavior where one is looking after protecting one's own mining rights. And so you want to make sure that you're not found wanting where you haven't responded effectively to community development because you were working with somebody else who's working differently in as far as their own community development to try and collaborate, and you find yourself not achieving your objectives as it would be expected by the regulations and the inspector. So that's one area, and this is why we emphasize in the presentation a repositioning and a re-looking at how do we approach social development in a way that provides for collaboration, investment of and pooling of a larger amount of funds amongst members operating in the same area, but also pooling in, financial resources and capabilities from other industries in a particular area. And this is something that we believe will give us better scope for much better impact on community. And then the other aspect is that, we're seeing more opportunity for even faster transformation. And by transformation here, it's really about how do we bring in currently the demographics of the country around youth, women, and that is possible where the economy is growing, the industry is expanding, and there are more mining companies being created in order to absorb the capabilities that each one of those demographics provides. And equally, I think we've seen, lastly, on the ownership side, so we've seen, certainly I'm a mining engineer myself, and I've seen a lot of people I was at university with, people who come from other industries, establishing new mines. And these are the guys and girls who are in, and women who are in junior sector. And I think with more exploration opportunities, we're going to see more and more ownership of mines by Black women, Black people, Black youth into the future. So it's really around seeing more and better transformation through an industry that is growing and expanding. When it comes to regulatory uncertainty, we have often spoken about this, and our response has been how we've been engaging the DMPR and various other departments that affect the mining industry, and to highlight to them where we're seeing areas of uncertainty and how these can be changed. And we've got an opportunity right now with the amendment bill to try and address a lot of those challenges. So I think that in time and soon should be less of an issue in as far as regulatory uncertainty. But what we'd like to see is that it expands beyond just mining, but into the broader, I'll say, economic cluster from a government perspective to enable for more investment. And then perhaps, Shamini, I see you on the screen in terms of questions related to environmental impact on communities. I don't know if Mr. Manye had completed his question in terms of a reflection of mining being a heritage of the people of South Africa, as well as whether we're seeing the challenges of emissions and waste and overall environment being an hindrance to growth or an enabler. Maybe you can talk to that.
Mr. Mtanjan, let's leave Honorable Manye's sentiments or questions. He will come back and start afresh.
So then the question would be on whether we're seeing environmental requirements being a hindrance to growth.
Okay, thank you, Mzila, and thank you to the committee for the question. Do we see environmental issues as a hindrance? No, we do not. In fact, I want to maybe split it up into two responses, one related to waste and one related to carbon emissions. In terms of carbon emissions, the sector is not a big emitter of greenhouse gas emissions, and particularly our scope 1 emissions, which is your direct emissions, are quite significantly small. That said, we're playing an active role in this. Most of our members have targets already that support the country's targets around greenhouse gas reduction. We have implemented measures like energy efficiency, which is utilization of energy better to deliver more production, in fact. And in fact, you see benefits through the implementation of these technologies and opportunities because you actually have more efficient operations. So it becomes something that is a business imperative because you save on those energy costs. In addition, renewable energy is something I mentioned already, deployment of renewable energy and utilize that rather in your operations, as opposed to just solely getting energy from the grid, has lowered scope 2 emissions, which is your indirect emissions, as a contributor to the overall inventory for the mining sector being significantly lower than maybe 4 or 5 years ago pre-COVID. On the waste management side, we adopt a principle of a waste hierarchy, which is really a circularity concept. What do I mean by that? We ultimately want to reuse our waste, and we want to, right up front, prevent, reduce, reuse, recycle, and recover our waste. We also see in many opportunities our tailings is not a waste. We regard it as an opportunity for us. We remine our tailings areas, and what we sit with is an opportunity to then generate productivity from this. So 2 areas of critical importance that was mentioned where we see opportunities and opportunities for growth and reinvestment into the sector. Last point I want to leave you with is that ultimately the sector, like I said, is an opportunity for the low carbon future, for a transition South Africa as well, where we have diversified energy opportunities and diversified economic activities, which is related to critical minerals. So this sector is also playing an active role in being able to develop those new value chains for the country with new job opportunities. Zilla, I'm going to leave it there for now.
Thank you. And then on the reporting side, Chair, there's a combination of regulatory reporting and voluntary reporting. When it comes to regulatory reporting, this is on safety and health, as well as environment, and several other areas. And what I can confidently speak to is on the safety and health, where we've been seeing increasing improvement in terms of reporting from a safety and health performance, which is giving us a very good indication of the performance of the industry. And this is how we're able to tell the degree and the rate of improvement in safety. On the voluntary side, and obviously the mining charter reporting as well. And I can also only speak confidently from a perspective of our members. We do encourage as many mining companies as possible to join, and there's a compact that they adhere to, which will require them to be able to also adhere to those reporting and communication requirements. Let me pause there. I see we out of time, and there's still a few more questions, Chair.
Yes, you are out of
Chair, I'm ready.
Allow me to call Honorable Hassan because she needs to step out before you. Are you still around, Honorable Hassan?
Yes, Chair, I am, and it's good timing actually. If you'll allow me, I have only one question. I felt the presentation was quite good and extremely helpful for us to also do some fact checking on the industry. My question relates to the Mine Health and Safety Council, right? And I actually posted it in the chat in case I had to leave. But basically, they indicated that there's a correlation between the fluctuations in the commodity prices, but also as well as an increase in mining-related injuries and fatalities. And what's been suggested is that the higher production pressures during the boom periods, the good periods, may actually compromise the safety of workers. And given this finding, what specific measures is the Mineral Council implementing to ensure that its member companies do not prioritize production targets over worker safety, particularly during periods of high commodity demand? And secondary to that, how does the Council monitor and enforce compliance with those safety protocols when economic consequences are in place? So we know that there's a bottom line, there's a need to make profit, but at the same time, we are worried about the neglect of safety standards in the pursuit of that kind of profit. Thanks, Chair. That's my only question.
Thank you, Mr. Mtenjana.
Thanks, Chair. So that's a question, and thanks to Honourable Member for that question. It's a question which the Chief Inspector has been challenging the industry on. And we have done some initial analysis of whether is it a correlation or a causation of a degradation or recession in safety performance at a time of profitability. And it's not conclusive as to whether the one, a time of high prices leads to poor safety performance. And we're still trying to understand the numbers, because given the diversity of commodities and also the difference in mining conditions, you've got underground, deep level, you've got underground deep level, labor intensive, underground shallow, mechanized, you've got open cast. And one needs to make sure that, if we're going to respond to that issue, we respond confidently and in a way that we can say, given this understanding, we can report. So, Honourable Member, I'm not saying yes or no to your question, but what I'm acknowledging is that this is something that we are engaging with the chief inspector and his team on, and hopefully we'll be able to come to a conclusion. Having said that, the issue of safety and health is one of those where, from a Minerals Council perspective, we say it is CEO-led. And so from an ongoing monitoring of safety performance at the highest decision-making level, we have CEO Safety and Health Leadership Forum, where firstly, every month there's an hour of learning. If there's a need for more time, that is provided. And that is now going to be enhanced with actual physical site visits and opportunities for sharing of best practices in mines that have, shown consistent safety performance, but also in mines that have been challenged in terms of safety, so that we learn from both areas where we're doing well, but in areas where we challenged. And the conversations are actually quite open and robust. Having come in the past 18 to 12 months, I can honestly say that I've been impressed with the manner in which the CEOs are engaging and are very committed on both safety and health. And we've got CEOs who are leading various areas of concern in terms of safety prevention, as well as in health.
Thank you. Hugo, you want to make additions? I see your hand.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. Just very quickly on the safety versus commodity price question, and just to add to what Mzila said, and to perhaps be quite equivocal on this. So in terms of the fatalities, we looked at commodity prices over the last 20 years versus fatalities in the mining sector over the last 20 years. And there is absolutely no correlation between the two. In fact, they move in opposite directions. So over the last 20 years, in general, a basket of South African-based commodity prices have gone up, so they've increased, whereas fatalities have gone down significantly over that period. So we can with quite a bit of confidence say that there is no link between the two. Thank you.
Okay. Can you please lower your hand, Hugo? Honorable Mani, it's your time now.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, okay. Firstly, on the first question, I was lamenting the fact that we've got beautiful PowerPoint presentations here, but on the ground, it's actually a very disgraceful setting. More than 100 years later, if you go to all mining towns, there is no exemplary area. And so on, and I've mentioned them, like Khalishiwe is a mess, Kutung is a mess, Marikana is a mess, go to Mpumalanga is a mess. Why is it that you don't see this beautiful PowerPoint being reflected on the ground and giving effect to the intent or the expression expressed in the MPRDA Act that says it's a heritage? There is no benefit. There's just strife and there's death. There's all kinds of things. We even have people trapped in Lily Mine and all of that. So there's absolutely nothing really to write home about in terms of how communities experience mining. That's the first point. The second thing is I'm not so sure if I hear Mr. Mtenjane sort of trying to defend that mining is not a sunset. It was just a recession and all of that. I mean, given that the ore bodies themselves are a finite entity, as it were, why is there a worry about categorizing it as a sunset industry, as it were, particularly when the Mining Council does not do a proper correlation between the various ore reserve types that are there versus the demand and the various industrial uses and so on. Maybe if you had done that kind of a picture, then we could perhaps see the sunrise aspects of it. But for now, all I know is that you are mining something that is not replaceable. So therefore, by definition, it must be as answered, but that's just the issue there. And then on the exploration side, I picked up that there's almost like a concern that the exploration is reducing, and that being a concern and all of that. I'm not so sure that it should be a concern. I mean, 100 years later, we've got more proven reserves now. So with more proven reserves, maybe by definition, therefore exploration must come down because we are less speculative now. We've got proven reserves. We can extrapolate from something that is already there and all of that. So therefore, should that trend actually be worrying you that there's less exploration? Isn't that good actually? Because now you've got more proven reserves. The other question I wanted to just check, of the 70 members that we have, what is the rate of transformation in there? How many of the 70 members that we have at least like a 50% black owned in these companies? Where are we sitting on transformation on that? Firstly. Secondly, in terms of the black executives and black executives, professionals, technical people in operations and in board, or how are we looking like across the 70 members? Is it something to be proud of, or is something that needs a lot of work on? Lastly, for a man on the street to classify coal as a mineral is acceptable. But for the people that are making these presentations here, surely you would know that coal is actually not a mineral. That in the classical geological sense of the word, because it's organic in nature, it's therefore not a mineral and all that. And therefore, and the point about that is that if coal was to be classified properly outside the mineral regime, it would do a lot of other things. Number one, you would then begin to see the other industrial uses of associated with the coal extraction, as it were. Like we all know now that coal is like the biggest contributor of CO2 in the world, actually, and therefore something would be made out of that. If you go to the coal mines today, you see they just burn methane out. So shouldn't coal be classified outside the mineral space into more environmental energy and all of that, so that the governance of coal is much more in line with the, call it ecosystem, in line with everything else, as opposed to the extraction mineral approach just to profit over people and all of that. So I'm asking, shouldn't we reclassify it so that we can get the best use of it and all of that? Thank you. Those are the questions from my side.
Thank you, Honorable Mani. Mr. Mtenjan.
Thank you, Chair. I think the last question on whether coal is a mineral or not is an interesting one, and I can only talk from a mining perspective. That today we're seeing how it's regarded as a mineral that is a source of energy, and hence we've built our energy systems on the back of that, and Eskom. And we're seeing how some of our coal mining members are building, other energy companies on top of that. We can have this discussion outside of this, in as far as whether there's an opportunity for reclassification or looking at coal differently. But interestingly, it's also becoming, a source of extraction of rare earth elements in terms of critical minerals. So it's an interesting one there. And then the question around exploration and seeing the decline, it is a concern. And I think the point that needs to be understood in terms of exploration and mining and minerals is that these go in tandem with innovation and technology development. And the proven reserves that the Honorable Member Manyi is referring to will be on the basis of minerals that have been explored and have been mined and are key inputs into current technologies and innovations that we are using already and that which we'll continue to use. But we're seeing as well now with, critical minerals, how there are new uses for metals and minerals that are coming up. And we all know, there's a famous expression that as human beings, we live on the basis of two things: the things that we grow, which is agriculture, or the things that we mine, which are minerals and mining. And mining, in as far as looking forward, the ability to transition into a low carbon future, the technologies that we need for our phones, for daily life, for health, all of those will come from mining. And hence, there's a need for exploration, not only to meet with those new technology developments, but I think also exploration for replacement of ore bodies which have been exhausted. And to the extent that those replacements can be found in the same country, that provides for exploration opportunities. So exploration is absolutely critical to our livelihoods and ensuring that we continue to sustain and improve our lives as we evolve and develop as a country, and certainly if I can add, as a human species. And then I think that talks to the point around recession and sunset. There are clear definitions in terms of what a recession is, which we provided in the presentation, and sunset. A sunset industry is one where there are no longer any opportunities available. And when we speak of mining and mining in South Africa, and the reason I say it is not a sunset industry is because it still offers huge prospects for mining. And it goes back to the point I was making earlier around exploration, and exploration which will lead to mining, and exploration of commodities which will expand on what we have, but also exploration on new commodities that we will need and the world will need. So on that basis, it is not a sunset industry. The recession that we are seeing is as a result of some key enabling factors that have impacted on the performance of the mining industry. And we've seen as a result a reduction in the production levels of our mining industry, particularly when you look at the bulk commodities impacted by logistics. We're seeing a slight recovery on the precious metals, despite prices.
As we wrap up, Mr. Mthenjana.
And then lastly, on transformation of members, I think on the ownership side, it varies from close to 100% to a minimum of about 25% ownership, and on a broad-based basis. And then when it comes to executives and technical expertise, South Africa has a population of Black people of 85%. And we've been seeing more and more of those Black professionals coming through the ranks, also on a diverse basis in terms of gender and youth. So as far as technical and executive transformation, the mining industry is is leading by example, and we can continue to provide those statistics to yourselves, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Zondi.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, my question is around the competition for water between mining and agriculture, especially in a province like Northwest. Now, Chairperson, South Africa as a country does not have a grey water policy. We have guidelines from the Water Institute of Southern Africa. We have certain guidelines, but they're not a form of legislation that can be applied. We do have certain guidelines, as I say, but not necessarily policy on grey water. Members of the Mineral Council, is there any investment being made in having installations that can facilitate with the use of grey water in mining for things like dust suppression, or for uses that do not need fully treated water per se? Because it is an issue, as I say, this competition between agriculture and mining for water. I've seen, even with, if you look at the investment table of different mining companies, you do not see anything on research with regards to the use of grey water, whereas other countries use grey water quite a lot for those purposes. So that's my only question, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Zondi. Mr. Mtenjana.
Yes, Chair. No, thank you very much for that question. And I think I will invite Shamini, and I don't know if Stefina is on the line on that. What I can say on the water situation is that we're trying to remove competition for water and other resources. And I think water is particularly important given the constitutional protection of and preference of access to water by society versus industry. And so what we've seen happening is mining industry has been recycling or increasing the level of recycling of water in order to reduce that competition, but more importantly, to reduce the amount of potable water that it uses. And by using less potable water, it naturally then provides for more of that water to communities. The second thing is that from a compliance perspective, we need to ensure that the water that we use tends to be polluted through mining. It then needs to be managed in terms of how it comes out the mine. And mines have been building retreatment plants, water retreatment plants. And given that these have been largely for compliance, the water is treated to a level where you can then put it back into the river. And that is creating a new landscape for new conversations around the use of water that is generated by mines. But let me hand over to Shamini and see if she can speak specifically to the grey water issue.
Thanks, Mzila. You've actually responded already in part to the question. I mean, maybe to categorically say that the mining companies are in fact reusing this grey water, and it's being used within the mining operations and in fact into value chains. For example, the big corporates are using it in the manufacturing processes as well. So this is what we term a closed loop system, and we're reusing grey water and making sure that then the potable water is then available to the communities, as you've indicated. But there's also additional treatment that we are doing ourselves to make water to the grade of potable water as well. So we're doing these activities already. So you're quite right, there isn't a policy necessarily, but for years, the member companies have in fact been doing this, and it continues to be implemented. And we're looking for further opportunities to contribute, as I indicated in my slide in the presentation, to be able to collaborate with government, to be able to then get to opportunities to reuse this water in different ways. There are competing demands with agriculture, as you've indicated, but we're fully aware of this, and we're trying to alleviate the stresses on the water system in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Sinne.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you for the presentation. Chair, my first question, I'm interested to know from Mineral Council, how many companies were fined in the last financial year for not implementing SLPs? That's my first question. And then my second question, Chair, I'm interested to know if Mineral Council have a relationship with traditional leaders, because Chair, there are allegations that the traditional leaders in mining communities are the ones that are giving illegal miners permission to mine. So I want to know if you have relationship with traditional councils, and also do you do outreaches or form part of community meetings just to create awareness in terms of illegal mining. It's a criminal offense, and what steps must be taken in order for community members to apply for mining licenses. And then my last question, Chair, the mining sector has long been criticized for exporting raw minerals rather than supporting local beneficiation and industrialization. So what strategies is the Minerals Council advocating to promote domestic value addition, and how is it working with the government to downstream the industries? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Mtendana.
Thank you, Chair. I will let, on the question of fines, from where I'm sitting, I'm not aware of any, but that would be a function of direct engagement between the individual mining company and the department, or whichever department it will be involved, subject to the transgression. So perhaps my colleagues from the department can respond to that. And then on the relationship with traditional leaders, I will let Debelo speak to that. I'm aware that, I think there's opportunity to strengthen the relationship specifically with traditional leaders, but this is an area from a stakeholder management perspective where we also need to be mindful of the boundaries between the mining operation, the mining company on the ground, and its local setting in relation to ourselves as an umbrella body, where our relationship with stakeholders are more indirect rather than direct. But Debelo can talk to that. And then on export of raw materials versus value addition, this is the talk of the town right now with, the conversation on critical minerals. Our perspective is that we are in support of value addition and beneficiation of minerals where it makes economic sense. That's an overarching statement. And then we need to break it down and say, value addition is not something that is new to South Africa. And in fact, we have been beneficiating as many of the minerals where it makes economic sense for quite a long time. You look at gold and precious metals, which go into gold bars. And obviously, there's an opportunity for jewelry manufacturing where that is concerned. From a PGM's perspective, we have had before a very large auto catalyst sector, which unfortunately has reduced in size. And we're seeing and have been witnessing what's been happening, for instance, on the steel side when it comes to iron ore and other alloys such as chrome, ferrochrome, and manganese, which go into steel manufacturing. And the biggest contributing factor to the reduction in those value addition downstream activities has been a function of electricity. To the extent that we're able to secure reliable electricity as well as affordable electricity in order to make it competitive for anyone who participates in the downstream value addition, as well as ensuring a secure supply of these minerals. We believe that beneficiation is something that can grow, expand on what we have, and then grow into the new opportunities that we're seeing coming ahead of us in terms of critical minerals. So we've seen how Minister of Electricity and Energy, working with DTRC, DMPR, have responded to the concerns that have been expressed by, for instance, the ferrochrome industry. And there's exploration of, some preferential tariff arrangements. And I think we'll see how that that unfolds over the next couple of weeks. And those are significant. Those are part of our members as well, and that will provide a valuable lesson in terms of how to approach current challenges. Tebelo, on the relationships with traditional leaders.
Thank you. If I can come in there very quickly. As you can imagine, traditional leaders are absolutely key stakeholders for a lot of our mining operations, and there are multiple touch points and interactions that I had with traditional leaders. You'll know that some traditional communities are shareholders in the mining companies, so are active and engaging not only in community trusts involved with the mining companies, but also in their regular stakeholder engagement sessions that they have. I think you see proof of the pudding in the reports that mining companies make. Remember, I said that we've got a report of the 3 engagements that you're having on SLPs. A lot of those involve traditional leaders, so you see evidence of the engagements of traditional leaders in those kind of reports. But yeah, generally they're key stakeholders for the mining industry and are absolutely involved in many stages of engagements, many process of engagements, and also in particular on SLPs and the like. Maybe that's all I can add at this stage. I mean, to the extent that they are the ones talking in inviting illegal mining. I mean, we don't. I can't really comment on that, Chair.
Thank you. The last question is from Honorable Mufukeng on the chat, but I think Mr. Mtenjana tried to respond to it. That the mining sector has long been criticized for exporting raw minerals rather than supporting local beneficiation and industrialization. What strategies is the Minerals Council advocating to promote domestic value addition, and how is it working with the government to incentivize investment in downstream industries? If I was listening correctly, I think you responded to this question, Mr. Mtenjana.
Yes, I did, Chair, and we're also engaging with foreign entities as well to understand their perspective of beneficiation and understanding, what are the global trends. So we've seen countries like Indonesia and Zambia introduce export bans or restrictions. We want to understand, what are the short, medium, and long-term implications of that. More often you will hear the benefits, but you don't hear of the downside. And we're using those opportunities to learn in terms of then being able to put in place a more sustainable response to value addition and beneficiation in South Africa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mtenjana and the team. We want to take this opportunity to appreciate honoring the invitation to brief us on what is happening in the industry. We know you always avail yourself when we make this call. Much appreciated, and we look forward to other meetings in the future.
Indeed, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, we will now step out of this item and go to the report on the petition by Mr. Craythorn.
Can we be excused, Chair?
Yes, you can be.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to the members for their questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I've seen that Mr. Craythorn is on the platform. Can we receive the report? Ms. Masuta, can you take us through the report?
Morning, Chair, and morning to the honorable members, and good morning to colleagues as well. Honorable members, this is the report on the petition that was received by the Portfolio Committee on the allegations of corruption and governance issues at Alexkor. The report is it essentially details the activities that the committee undertook, and it would be necessary to go line by line or to just provide a high-level summary of the report itself and then go into the resolution and recommendation.
Ms. Masuta, you disappear.
Chair, can you hear me?
Yeah, you are back now, but you have disappeared a bit. I'm not sure whether it's me only or other members as well are experiencing this.
Same here, Chair. Yeah, same here, Chair.
Can you we can hear you now.
Okay, and can you see the report on your screen, Chair?
Yes, we can. We can see the report. Can you proceed?
Okay. So Chair, just to mention that the report essentially details the activities of the committee. Once the petition was referred to on the report, I would just provide a high-level summary of what is in the report. As members will recall, we received the report, the petition from the Speaker's office on the 28th of February, as well as his colleagues, where in the meeting he detailed the governance issues, the alleged corruption that was taking place in or at Alexkor and the stakeholders involved. He provided evidence and provided clarity where was required. Following that meeting, there was a resolution by the members that there should be a oversight to Alexkor, where the committee members could engage with the issues as well as with the community. The observations and the recommendations were put in the oversight report that was adopted in the previous meeting. In this report, we have just detailed the exact same issues that are raised in the adopted report. However, for ease of reference, that report is annexed to this report. So there are no new details in that regard. The importance of this report is section 4, or the committee makes following
Ms. Masuta?
The petition. So this essentially, yes, Chair?
You keep breaking. I don't know what is the problem.
Even on my side, Chair.
Proceed, we'll assess. Can you proceed?
Can you hear me, Chair?
Yes.
So, Chair and honorable members, the important aspect of this report is section 4, page 8, which details the resolutions and recommendations that the Portfolio Committee is making following the petition and the activities that have previously been done in addressing the issues raised. I will read this section. The resolutions and recommendations, after reviewing the petitioner's input, conducting an oversight visit and researching governance and corruption issues at Alexkor, the committee recommends the following. The Portfolio Committee on Mineral and Petroleum Resources, in partnership with the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, to investigate Alexkor. This investigation is to focus specifically on identifying the root causes of the audit disclaimers issued to Alexkor over the past 5 financial years. Addressing these disclaimers, as noted in the observations, could reveal the underlying issues at Alexkor. The subboard within Alexkor. 4.2. The committee advocates for the aforementioned investigation to Alexkor's activities from 20.
Ms. Masuta, can we
2015
allow
2016 to the present.
Ms.
Therefore,
Masuta?
Yeah,
initiating a
let
full
me.
inquiry by
Ms. Masuta, can we allow
Yeah, let me read it, Chair.
can you allow us to do that, please?
Okay. 4.2. The committee advocates for the aforementioned approach, 4.1, as the President has tasked the SIU with conducting a comprehensive investigation into Alexkor's activities from 2015 to 2016 to the present. Therefore, initiating a full inquiry by Parliament into Alexkor's affairs would result in unnecessary duplication of efforts. 4.3. Parliament to ensure that the recommendations contained in the oversight report to the Minister of Mineral and Petroleum Resources are fully implemented, as these address some issues that may not form part of the proposed investigation. Certain recommendations can be addressed immediately without waiting for the conclusion of the SIU investigation of parliamentary investigations into Alexkor. Are there more, Masudu?
No, that's it. Ends at 4.3.
Okay.
Thanks, Rico.
Sure.
Honorable members, that is the report and recommendations. There are 3 recommendations. One is that we must have an investigation together with Scopa on what Mr. Craythorn had submitted, and he indicated his desirability for the accountability ecosystem to be restored within Alexkor, and that will be our focus. And then the second one and the third one. Can I hear members take on the report, more especially the recommendations? Can I take hands? Honorable members, are you still in a meeting? Honorable Senne?
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thanks for the presentation, Ms. Masuta. Chair, I don't have much to say except to agree with the recommendation. It's a true reflection of what we have discussed when we were discussing this petition. Chair. Thank you.
Honorable members, any other take? There is a proposal to agree with the report. Is there any view or seconder? Honorable members? Honorable Zondi?
Thank you, Chairperson. I think the report does reflect the views that we expressed even last time with the recommendations. So I'll second the report.
Honorable Zondi, having seconded the report, the report is agreed to. Any objection? I see no objection. Therefore, the report has been adopted. Honorable members, this report will be taken to the Speaker and we will be receiving an opinion on the scope of reference on what we must investigate. And again, Mr. Craythorn will be called, and others, dependent on the need to come and be part of the inquiry. Thank you very much. Mr. Craythorn, some parting shots. Ordinarily, we shouldn't, but I'm giving you that courtesy.
Can you hear
Mr.
me?
Craythorn, in a minute. Go ahead.
Honorable Chair, thank you so much. I was just busy typing a brief message just to say we'd like to express our sincere thanks to the rigor and the enthusiasm that you, together with your colleagues in the committee, have displayed to us. And we have all confidence in Parliament's commitment to dealing with the collapse of Alexkor's accountability ecosystem. So we look forward to the process, and we look forward to the rebuilding of the Northern Cape marine diamond mining industry. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. DG, are you in a position to have parting shots before we close the meeting?
Chairperson, and good morning to you, good afternoon to you, and good afternoon to the honorable members and the colleagues on the court. I think from my side, Chairperson, we note the report of the committee, and also noted the part that obviously refers some actions to the department, and will accordingly comply with the recommendations of the committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, DG. Mr. Ariko, is there any announcement?
Oops, sorry, Chair. Was looking for my unmute button. Chair, yeah, just to indicate that as agreed to this morning, so there will be no meeting next week on the 8th of July. So your next meeting will be on the 22nd of July. Chair. That will be the committee's last meeting. That's it, Chair.
Okay. I need a short investigation on why Mr. Mani or Honorable Mani is an alternate instead of a member. This may require us to contact their chief whip and understand who between Mr. Mani and Nchabeling is an alternate. And then we'll come back to the report. Thank you very much. This meeting stands adjourned.
Thank you, Chair.